He shares his personal takeaways of his interview with Vladimir Putin, as well as his experience being blacklisted by the mainstream establishment media. You know, a filmmaker talked to Vladimir Putin himself directly and asked him questions about meddling in the United States election directly. You think that would be newsworthy and would be covered extensively by the mainstream news media. It wasn't. We're going to talk about it, and we'll talk about how he was smeared, plus a lot more. You know, people ask me about my comedian friends ask me about the success of this show, and they say, what are you doing? And I said, well, all you have to do is tell the truth about Syria, and you're already the best newsman in America, because you're not going to hear the truth about Syria anywhere in mainstream news media. So they leave me a big lane. So and that's why a guy like me has a show like this. So
I'm glad.
Go ahead.
You're very important, actually. You and Abby Martin and people like you, who are the people like Glenn Greenwald, people like there's quite a few columnists here and there that are really seeing through the lies.
Yeah, there's not enough of those voices. God bless Abby Martin, Lee Camp, Kyle Kalinske, people like that, really doing great work. So now I don't see you on MSNBC much anymore. Now, why is that?
I don't think we made it to NPR, except for one or two shows. We never got on NPR after my Chavez documentaries, much less my Untold History of the United States. But I really feel that that's a lot of people have seen that in America. It's still on Netflix. It was on Showtime. You know, it's really hard to get this. You know, my Putin interview should have been on main network. They just owe it to his importance in the world to put him on. Castro was cut out. I think HBO threw me off with Castro. So I'm used to this, but my stuff does get out underground and gets seen. And the Putin interviews are important because Americans never hear his voice.
So how do we fight back against the behemoths like Google? Because right now they're doing a thing called deranking, and they're using algorithms to silence the left. Voices like yours, voices like Alternet, Truth Dig, Truth Out, Common Dreams, shows like this. So how do we fight back against those behemoths like Google?
Do we have proof of that, or is it paranoia?
Say again?
Do we have proof of them altering the logarithms that affect the visibility of the show?
Yes, Chris Hedges has talked about how they're throttling all the places that his work appears. So I'm repeating what Chris Hedges has reported about how Google is doing this. Also, Kyle Kalinske at Secular Talk has reported on this, how they have the numbers that So when they do that, they run the algorithm. They run the numbers about how if you put a word in, say like anti-imperialism, it won't go to the usual websites it's supposed to. It won't go to Alternet. It won't go, and so things come up bupkis, right? So that's what's happening right now, and Google's doing that. So I don't know if you're not comfortable speaking on it. That's fine.
No, I was in Paris actually they showed some of my films there, Forum des Images, and I had the chance to meet with Quant. You ever heard of Quant?
No.
I think it's spelled Quant. Was it Q? Q-W-A-N-T, Quant?
Yes.
Q-U-A-N-T. It's a French search engine, and they don't collect any data they at all. And they promise you that you can use, and it's a good search engine. But that seems to be an alternative to Google. Now it's a little late. They're late into the game. But if the French government supports it, which it can grow. But we need to have search engines where they don't collect your data. It's a little late for me. They know who I am. But I feel sorry. My young kids. I mean, my youngest is now 22. But whatever she said on Facebook at whatever 17, maybe some future employer won't like what she said or thinks. It's a strange world we're going into. We've already reached it, I suppose. When I did the Snowden movie, which I hope you saw in 2016.
Yes.
I mean, it's that movie sort of shows a seal that's come around us, and it shows what the governments can do. So, we have to fight from inside.
So, there are... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
There's always a resistance, and we know about that.
Well, there's a pretend resistance happening right now. I'm pretty aware of. You can't resist Donald Trump by voting to give him. Isn't it crazy that the establishment says Donald Trump is this maniac who can't be allowed to have his finger on a nuclear button, and then they just voted to give him 80 billion more buttons? What does that tell you?
It's ridiculous. It makes no sense. I wish Stanley Kubrick were alive. I wish I could come up with a movie that could show how ridiculous it is.
Yeah. Okay. Now, there are some bright spots. For instance, Larry Krasner is the new DA in Philadelphia. Are you familiar with him?
No.
So he was a Black Lives Matter lawyer. He sued the police department many times in Philadelphia, and he won. And now he's the DA, and he is bent on ending mass incarceration. And so he just gave directives to, first of all, he fired 31 DAs because they weren't on board with what he was doing. He's getting rid of cash bail. Because why is it rich people get to not have to sit in jail, but poor people have to sit there? So that's gone. He's telling people, his prosecutors, to ask for the lowest sentence instead of the maximum sentence. And that when you ask for a sentence, you have to then tell the people how much that's going to cost to incarcerate that person. So if you want to put away somebody for 3 years, you have to go, this is going to cost us $120,000, and this is why it's worth it. So that's the kind of thing Larry Krasner's doing in Philadelphia. And I just don't. I don't.
You broke up there, but yeah, that's a wonderful idea.
Yeah. So
I wish him more. I wish he would run the entire office too.
Do you think, before I let you go, I'll ask you one last question. Do you think that they're going to allow Bernie Sanders to become president of the United States?
I don't see why not. He is not that good on foreign issues. He seems to be. I mean, he said stupid things about Chavez as well as Russia and China. I think he's ignorant of this, and I'm surprised. I really mean that. It doesn't matter to a foreign country if Trump or Clinton is in office or whoever, even Sanders. I really don't think so.
So Chuck Schumer, and I know I said that was my last question. This will be my last question. Chuck Schumer said that Trump should be careful when he's dealing with the intelligence community because if he messes with them, they have 6 ways to Sunday to mess with him back. Yes. To me, that's Chuck Schumer admitting that the intelligence community is running the presidency and not the other way around. Am I making too much out of that?
No, you're not. I think that's very true. I think that there's obviously a consensual power, but it's the accumulation between the CIA, Defense Department, and state that have a tremendous lock on this country, as well as media. Let's not look at media. I mean, the power of this television campaign against Trump. As you said, MSNBC, CNN, they constantly are rotating Russia. People don't care about it, but and they're looking for something. They will get something eventually. Maybe Trump needed loans from Russia, from a bank in Russia, because that's possible, a business loan. But to suggest that all this craziness about he fundamentally changed the American election is it's so Wizard of Oz to me, and it's sad that we're still thinking like that. We should really be thinking about how to make the world a more peaceful place. Our greatest partner in the world is actually Russia and China. They can be. Even if China economically eclipses us, we have a huge role to play. There's a huge place for America, and we're a good country. We have good people. Well, our warlike side is not attractive.
No. Well, listen, it's been a real...
I saw the worst of it in Vietnam, and I saw how bad the military can be in terms of wasting money, artificializing situations, and hyping them.
And it was just the 50-year anniversary last weekend of the My Lai massacre. So
I tried to make a movie about that in 2007. I failed. I came very close.
When you say you failed, do you mean you couldn't get financing?
Well, the financing fell apart. It was a few weeks before the crash.
Oh, okay. I got to be honest. I just started to read about it because it was the 50-year anniversary. I had to stop reading. I almost started crying. I can't imagine that stuff happened. And
it's a very important story, and it's a bigger and it's a deeper story than what you're even hearing, because they'll always talk about that. But they've finally admitted that 500 villagers were killed in cold blood. But what they don't tell you is that the CIA was very much a part of that operation, going into the village that day with the information they had. That information they gave to the army, which CIA ran that war. The information they gave to the army came from, guess what? Torture.
Oh. Really?
And the torture said there'll only be communists in that village.
Yes.
It was not the case.
Right. Well, they're children. They killed children. I don't know how communist you can be if you're 8 years old, but apparently that's enough.
No, they were. Many men lost their minds that day.
Yeah. Well, listen, again, thank you so much. It's been an honor and a privilege to have you here. You know, really, I thanks for doing this and taking time out. And if you ever need a ride to the airport, I'll take you.
Thank you, Jimmy.